Hey, Kentucky, this is Matt Jones. Tonight, both sides in the 2019 governor's race are already throwing punches. We'll show you what they have to say. Plus, a major announcement. Who's running against Mitch McConnell? We'll tell you next on Hey, Kentucky. Welcome, everybody, to Hey, Kentucky, presented by Wendy's. Josh Corman is my co-host. Did you like that little,
I did. I didn't know you had boxing experience.
I'm not a big-time boxer, but I got a little bit. Nice to have you. Let's get started with the race we're going to be talking about for the next 5 months. Matt Bevin versus Andy Beshear. Neither side has wasted time in getting attack ads on the air, and we'll start with the one called Crooked Bevin.
Matt Bevin is the most corrupt governor in America. If you want to play, you have to pay. His administration gave hundreds of thousands in tax credits to a campaign donor, who then turned around and gave Bevin a $1 million discount on a mansion.
Boy, that sounds bad. Well, now here's a look at an ad that goes after Andy Beshear.
Beshear has traded on his dad's name his whole life, taking a cushy job at the law firm where his dad was managing partner, then grabbing big tax breaks for his clients while his dad was governor. Beshear cashed in at our expense.
Well, that doesn't sound good either. Now, the Bevin campaign has released a video calling Beshear, quote, Hillary Clinton's biggest fan. Political experts say we will see a barrage of these spots ahead of the election. Josh, this is one of only 3 governor's races in the country this year, so I feel like we are going to get inundated with national ads. What do you think?
I wonder if you get a button for being Hillary Clinton's biggest fan, being in her fan club.
Probably not in Kentucky.
Probably not. Doesn't hold office. Bringing her up makes a lot of sense. I think you're right. Without other governor's races, and one, Trump and Bevin like each other. There's a relationship there. And Beshear has sort of a political legacy, too. They already have a history and don't like each other. So, it's going to be to give this a knockdown drag out.
In politics, it's sort of like if there's an empty bucket, it gets filled. So there's 3 governor's races. One's in Louisiana. The Democrats probably going to win there. He's popular. One's in Mississippi. The Republicans probably going to win there. So everybody realizes this is the one place where it might be fun. And so everybody wants to show up. And you get Beshear and you get Bevin, 2 names. The families hate each other. They hate each other. I am really interested, though, will people just get so fatigued by this? I mean, for attack ads to start 2 days after the primary seems early, doesn't it?
Yeah, and I mean, this is one of those things where it just becomes background noise, and I do think people can kind of stop paying attention. They're not going to learn anything new or change their mind based on these ads, and so it just becomes a thing you can't get rid of.
I think most people tune all of this out until like October, and then maybe they start paying attention again. Now to a follow-up on the controversial investment by a Russian company into a Kentucky business. We've talked about the news about Brady Industries, and it has now drawn attention from Democratic members of Congress who are seeking a federal review of the forthcoming $200 million investment by a Russian oligarch that had previously been under U.S. sanctions. Concerns have been raised about the history of the company and its co-owner. The Russian oligarch has been very controversial. He's had sanctions himself. Josh, do you think a federal review of this is important?
I do, because I feel like, with everything that we've learned and kind of seen about Russia trying to interfere with our political election, we know that happened regardless of who did what exactly. So when you've got one of these guys who's been under sanctions throwing $200 million at a business that's going to be making aluminum that will go to defense projects and stuff like that, you've got to look at it, right?
I agree with you. Look, I want Brady Industries to succeed. It has a chance to transform Greenup County in that area, so I want it to succeed. However, just because you want it to succeed doesn't mean you necessarily want it to be succeeding by a Russian investment. Now, Russian investments by themselves are not necessarily bad, but I think this is a key. The person doing this has sanctions pulled from them by Mitch McConnell, and then all of a sudden invests in Mitch McConnell's state. It at least needs to be looked at. Yeah. I'd like to know that when this company opens, it is not being run by Putin.
Right.
I like Craig Bouchard, who's doing the company. I think his motives are good, but I don't want Putin in our Greenup County aluminum.
Just make sure the conflict of interest isn't there, then you can move on.
Just because you investigate doesn't mean something's wrong. Now, a former Republican state lawmaker who's been an outspoken critic of his own party has decided to challenge Mitch McConnell. We've interviewed C. Wesley Morgan on this show, and he used to be a state legislator, but he was ousted in a primary in 2018. And now he has filed documents with the FEC saying he is going to take aim at Mitch McConnell in the 2020 primary. The longtime senator won the 2014 Republican primary with 60% of the vote over Matt Bevin's 35%. Does C. Wesley have a chance to make waves against McConnell in a Republican primary?
Maybe the most powerful, influential, lawmaker in the country in a long time, right? He's held that seat. I don't know if C. Wesley Morgan has a chance. I don't know if this is a smart political decision for him, but it's going to be entertaining.
Oh, it will definitely be entertaining. C. Wesley Morgan will have some things to say.
Right.
I think Mitch McConnell is vulnerable in a primary against the right candidate. I don't know if C. Wesley is that candidate. He's going to come in here and talk to us next week. What I think that candidates like Morgan can show, though, is that Mitch McConnell is one of the least liked figures in his party. I think he is respected by a lot of Republicans, but I don't think he's liked. And so the question is, when he gets attacked within his own party, what happens? A lot of people don't take Morgan seriously. And I think actually that's a mistake, because while he says off-the-wall things, he actually usually has some substance behind what he says.
Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see what happens if he goes after McConnell.
Well, and primaries are an opportunity for people to come in and at least hold the incumbents, accountable for things they've said and done. So if nothing else, at least it gives people a chance to hear those criticisms and make that decision for themselves.
He's going to be on the show next week to talk about this race. We're still waiting for some Democrat to run. I have no clue who would do it. Now, turning to UK basketball, questions remain about the fall lineup for John Calipari after a 5-star recruit passed over the Cats. Last night we told you about Jaden McDaniels. He decided to stay home and play in Washington where no one will watch him, and at least it will rain a lot. But we're still waiting to see if Virginia Tech forward and potential grad transfer Kerry Blackshear will now come to Kentucky for his senior year. He's going through tests and drills for NBA scouts, but no word if he might come to college. And current Cats, E.J. Montgomery and Nick Richards, are also trying to go to the pros. They're trying to decide if they'll remain in the 2019 draft. Now, Josh, losing McDaniels takes him off the plate. Blackshear, Montgomery, somebody else, Richards, who's on the team next year?
I do think that Montgomery and Richards are both back. I really hope that Kerry Blackshear ends up making the decision to come, because when I look at the team, that spot on the floor, the big man, is the one still big question mark. Like, if EJ makes a leap, great. I don't know that that's going to happen, and I don't know what junior Nick Richards is going to look like, right? But Blackshear's a proven guy in a really good conference who would be able to step in. I think he's like Reed Travis plus. I'd like to see him in that spot.
I think if Blackshear's on the team, he's the best player next year.
Yeah.
I don't know if he'll do it. Nate Sestina is on the team as well. That's a guy you got to remember. I think Richards comes back. Between Montgomery and Blackshear, they got to get one of them.
Right.
If they get them both, I think they're the favorite to win the national championship. If they get one, I think they're still all right, but they can't. If they don't get either of them, that's the problem. And I'm telling you, I think there's more of a chance of EJ staying in the draft than people act like. I think it's 50-50. Like, everybody's just assuming he comes back. Josh, I don't think that's the case. This is a kid who thought things would go better for him last year.
He was
than
the highest
they did.
recruit, highest ranked
he
recruit
was
in
the
the
highest
class.
ranked recruit. We'll have to see. I think he probably comes back, but I think it's really close. Now to our weekly feature on Hey Kentucky, What's the Beef, brought to you by the Kentucky Beef Council. Talks of impeaching President Trump have been heating up again thanks to a Louisville congressman. John Yarmouth says that waiting until the fall would be, quote, too late to begin an impeachment inquiry, and that now is the time. Yarmouth is, of course, Kentucky's only Democrat in Washington, and he previously said a House impeachment of Trump was inevitable. I personally think that's a mistake, but Yarmouth disagrees, and we'll see what happens. Now up next on Hey Kentucky, I'm going to check in with one of our regular contributors. Joe Sonka is from Insider Louisville. He has studied the numbers from the primaries. What do they mean? Bevin, Bashir, what happened? We'll talk about it right after this.